The painkillers dulled most of what I felt, but nothing could numb the ache of boredom that clung to my hospital bed like a shadow. Day 4 in post-op recovery, and I was already going out of my mind. Except for when Dr. Carter walked in. That man was a walking contradiction, confidence without arrogance, warmth without pretense. Tall, early to mid-30s, sandy brown hair always slightly tousled like he'd just run his hands through it. Broad shoulders that strained against his scrubs. And a voice, low, smooth, the kind that wrapped itself around you and made you forget you were wearing a backless gown with an 4 drip. I noticed him immediately. He noticed me differently. "My favorite patient," he said with a smirk as he stepped in that morning, clipboard tucked under one arm. "Still pretending to be in pain so you don't have to leave?" I chuckled, playing along. "Don't tell anyone. I'm enjoying the attention." His eyes held mine a moment too long before he glanced down at the chart. I watched the way his fingers moved, the confidence in them. Every movement was deliberate, but there was something else, something behind the way he adjusted my gown or checked the sutures. A softness that didn't feel entirely clinical. I told myself it was nothing. He was married. I'd seen the ring, platinum, slim, unmistakably worn in. I even heard a nurse mention his wife once in passing. Some charity event, I think. The usual small talk I half listened to until it confirmed what I didn't want to hear. Still, he lingered. There were times, late in the evening rounds, when he'd pull the curtain closed, sit by my bedside, and just talk. Not about my recovery or meds or vitals. About books, music. His father who was a carpenter. My love for photography. Those were the moments I caught myself leaning into the sound of his voice like it was medicine. I started to wonder if he was doing the same. "Pain level?" he asked that morning, placing 2 fingers gently on my wrist. His touch was barely pressure, but enough to send a tremor through my chest. I shrugged. "Manageable." He raised an eyebrow, eyes flicking to the monitor, then back to me. "Heart rate says otherwise." "Smartass." I liked that. "You always flirt with your patients?" I asked, bold enough to test the line between us. His smile faltered, just slightly. Then he leaned in, voice low. "Only the ones who look good even in hospital socks." That was the first time I couldn't look away. And he didn't try to, either. He left the room soon after, but the air still felt charged. I lay back, eyes on the ceiling, wondering what the hell I was doing, or hoping for. I didn't do straight men. Especially not married ones. Especially not the ones who touched me like I was made of glass. That night, I didn't buzz for pain meds. I didn't want the haze. He came in around midnight, his final rounds. The hallway lights behind him cast a faint silhouette as he stepped in, his steps quieter than usual. I let my eyes close, kept my breathing even. Pretending. Curious. "Hey," he said softly. Not the professional kind of greeting. Something gentler, more intimate. I didn't respond. He sighed, and I could hear the tiredness in it. Then the chair scraped slightly as he sat down next to me. "You're dangerous," he murmured. My chest tightened. "I see the way you look at me," he said. "And I hate that I like it." His hand grazed mine. Just for a second. Skin on skin. His thumb traced over my knuckles, slow, almost reverent. "I don't even know if you're awake," he whispered, "but maybe that's why I can say this." He paused, and for a moment, all I could hear was the quiet beep of the monitor and the storm of my own heartbeat. I haven't felt this alive in years. I wanted to move, to open my eyes, to say something, anything, but I was afraid to break the spell. Or maybe I wanted to hear more. Then I felt it, his fingers brushing along my wrist, up to my elbow, tracing the curve like he was memorizing it. A feather-light touch across my chest. The slow, warm weight of his palm resting just over my heart. He stayed there for what felt like forever. And then, as quickly as he came, he stood. Quiet steps retreated toward the door. The light from the hallway returned, briefly outlining his silhouette again. "I'll see you tomorrow," he said softly, and left. I opened my eyes only after the door clicked shut. I was wide awake. And now I couldn't pretend anymore. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I lay there, still and wired, replaying every second of what Dr. Carter, Ethan, I reminded myself, had said. Every touch, every word, every breath. The next morning, I was sure things would be different. Maybe colder, distant. But when he walked in just after 9 a.m., he wore that same guarded warmth like a mask. "Morning," he said, eyes flicking to mine and then quickly away. "You sleep okay?" I asked, tone casual. He gave a practiced smile. "I should be asking you that." His fingers brushed against my wrist as he checked my pulse. I felt the static crackle between us, the same way it had the night before, only this time we were both very much awake, and aware. "I didn't sleep much," I admitted. He didn't ask why. He didn't have to. His hand paused on my arm, just long enough to say what he couldn't out loud. Then he pulled away, scribbling something on the chart that probably didn't matter. "Anything else you need?" he asked without looking up. "Yeah. You." I almost said it, but instead I shook my head. He turned to leave, but hesitated by the curtain. "Can I stop by later? After rounds?" I nodded. "I'll be here." He came in that evening when the halls were quiet, the fluorescent lights humming low and dull. No clipboard this time. No lab coat. Just Ethan, his scrubs wrinkled, his hair messier than usual, his mouth set in a line of quiet frustration. "I shouldn't be here," he said. "But you are." He paced the room once, then stood at the foot of my bed, arms crossed. "You have no idea what kind of line I've already crossed." I tilted my head. "Then why keep crossing it?" He met my eyes jaw tight. "Because I haven't felt this, drawn to someone in a long time. And I don't know what that says about me. It says you're human." He let out a breath, somewhere between a laugh and a groan. "I'm married, Ryan. I know. She's not a bad person," he added quickly. "But it's like we live in separate worlds. We go through the motions. Smile at the dinner table. Sleep back to back. I don't remember the last time I touched someone and felt anything." His voice cracked slightly. He didn't try to hide it. "I'm not here to save you from your marriage," I said carefully. "But I'm not going to pretend I don't feel this too." He took a step closer. "I shouldn't want this. But you do." That did it. His defenses dropped in one slow exhale. He sat on the edge of my bed, close but not quite touching. "You know what really scares me?" he asked, staring down at his hands. "That it's not just physical. I've had patients flirt. You're different. You see me." "I do," I said, without hesitation. He looked up. "And what do you see?" "A man afraid to want what he wants." His eyes searched mine like he was looking for permission, or maybe forgiveness. Then, slowly, he reached for my hand. His thumb brushed over my knuckles the same way it had the night before, only this time I squeezed back. Silence stretched between us, thick, heavy, electric. "I've thought about kissing you every day since you got here," he admitted. Then stopped thinking. He leaned in, hesitant at first, his lips brushing mine like he was testing the reality of it. When I didn't pull away, when I kissed him back with all the need I'd been swallowing, he deepened it. It was slow, uncertain, but charged with something desperate and real. We pulled apart only when we had to breathe. His forehead rested against mine. "Tell me to stop." "I won't." He smiled, broken and grateful. "I'm scared." "So am I." He stayed for nearly an hour. We didn't cross the final line, not yet, but every minute between us pulsed with promise. His fingers traced my skin like he was learning a language he'd never dared to speak. Every touch said I want this and I shouldn't at the same time. When he finally stood to leave, he looked wrecked in the most beautiful way. "This is going to get messy," he said. "Maybe," I replied. "But messy isn't always wrong." He nodded, lips parted like he wanted to say more, but no words came. Before he stepped out, I stopped him. Ethan. He turned. If I hadn't been pretending that night, would you still have done it? He looked at me for a long time, then gave the smallest, saddest smile. Yeah. I think I would have done more. And then he left. I stared at the door long after it closed, my chest tight with something I couldn't name yet. But I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just a story about desire. It was about what happens when the heart finally speaks after years of silence. The next evening came slower than the last, every hour dragging under the weight of possibility. I hadn't seen Ethan all day. No check-ins, no small talk, just silence, and an empty ache that grew with each tick of the clock. By 10 p.m., I convinced myself he wasn't coming. I had just started to doze off when the door creaked open. He stepped in quietly, shutting the door behind him without turning on the overhead light. Just the glow from the hallway cast across his face, enough to see how tense he looked. His jaw tight. His hands in his pockets like he didn't trust them. But his eyes, those gave him away. Wild. Hungry. Unsettled. You came, I said softly. I told myself I wouldn't. I sat up slowly. But you did. He stood by the bed for a long moment, then finally sat in the same chair as before. I've spent the last 24 hours telling myself this is wrong, he said. That it's a moment I'll regret. That I'll ruin lives if I keep going. And he met my eyes. I can't stop thinking about you. The air in the room thickened. Every inch between us was on fire. I keep replaying everything you said, he continued. Every time I look at my wife, I wonder how long I've been lying to myself. I'm 36 years old, and I'm still trying to be someone I'm not. I didn't interrupt. I let him talk. Let him bleed. And then you just sit there and look at me like I'm allowed to feel something real. You are, I said. He stood suddenly, like he couldn't sit still anymore, pacing to the far wall, then back again. His voice dropped, rough and cracked. I don't know who I am when I'm around you. But it's the only time I feel like I'm not faking. I held his gaze. So stop fighting it. Silence. Tension. Then, without another word, he crossed the space between us in 3 deliberate steps. He cupped my face in both hands, and this time, the kiss wasn't hesitant. It was hungry, desperate, a collision of every suppressed feeling we'd tried to bury. His lips claimed mine with a heat that sent a tremor through my entire body. I pulled him closer. His hands moved from my face to my waist, gripping like he was afraid I'd vanish if he let go. We didn't speak. Words would have only cheapened the intensity of it. It wasn't about seduction, it was about release. His mouth moved to my neck, my collarbone. Each kiss was a confession, each breath a surrender. He climbed onto the bed, straddling me carefully, like someone afraid and free all at once. His fingertips explored me with reverence, with aching curiosity, like he was learning the contours of truth for the first time. Clothes peeled off, slow and unsure at first, then with urgency. The hum of the heart monitor picked up. The sheets tangled. The walls didn't matter. The rules didn't matter. Only the way his body moved against mine, and the way mine answered. It wasn't just lust. It was need, mutual, urgent, terrifying. And beautiful. His breath hitched when I touched him, like even that felt forbidden. Like he'd never been touched in a way that said, I see you. Not just your body, but the chaos and fear and longing underneath. I don't know what this makes me, he whispered into my skin. Human, I answered. The room pulsed with heat. Time distorted. It could have been minutes or hours, but every second felt like it counted. When it was over, he collapsed beside me, one hand still resting on my chest, as if grounding himself. As if afraid he'd disappear again into the lie he lived outside that room. We didn't rush to speak. The silence between us wasn't empty, it was full. Of questions. Of truth. Of things we couldn't yet say. Eventually, he exhaled. I didn't think I'd ever feel this again. What? I asked gently. Alive. I turned to him, brushing a thumb across his cheek. Then don't run from it. He looked away, jaw clenched. It's not that simple. I know, I said. But it's real. He stared at the ceiling for a long beat. You make me want to burn down everything I thought I needed. My heart squeezed. He sat up, suddenly alert, like reality had just come flooding back. He started dressing in silence, tension pulling tight across his shoulders. Don't shut down on me now, I said, reaching for his hand. He looked at me, haunted and raw. I don't regret what just happened, he said. But I don't know what it means. I can't promise anything. I'm not asking for promises, I replied. Just honesty. He squeezed my hand once before slipping it free. I have to go, he said. Before someone notices I'm missing. He paused at the door, his back to me. This wasn't a mistake, he said. But it can't be everything. Not yet. And then he was gone. I lay there, the sheets still warm from where he'd been, staring at the empty space beside me. We had crossed the line. Now there was no going back. Ethan didn't show up the next morning. Or the next night. What had felt like an awakening now echoed like abandonment. The silence, after everything we shared, was louder than any alarm, more painful than any surgical scar I was healing from. By the third day, I stopped pretending not to care. I kept staring at the door, hoping he'd walk in, flushed and frantic, offering an explanation. Instead, a younger doctor, polite, distant, forgettable, ran my checks and scribbled notes with clinical detachment. Ethan had vanished. I told myself it was inevitable, that what we had was too dangerous to last. But that didn't stop the bitterness from blooming in my chest, wild and unmanageable. By the time I was cleared for discharge, my bags were packed, but my head was a mess of questions with no answers. And then, just as the nurse was about to wheel me out, he walked in. He looked like hell. His eyes were rimmed with red, jaw covered in days-old stubble. His white coat was gone. He wore a plain t-shirt and jeans, clothes that made him look like a man, not a doctor. Not someone with a mask to wear. Give us a minute, he told the nurse. She hesitated, glancing at me, then nodded and left us alone. I crossed my arms. Took you long enough. He swallowed hard, stepped closer. I needed time. You ghosted me. I know. His voice was quiet, but I heard the guilt woven into every syllable. I went home that night, he said, and she asked me where I'd been. I couldn't lie. Not to her. Not anymore. I stood slowly, heart pounding. What did you tell her? That I was with someone. That I'd fallen for someone I didn't mean to. Silence cracked between us. He kept going. She cried. Asked if it was a woman. I told her no. I said his name was Ryan. I stared at him, stunned. She didn't scream. She just nodded. Like part of her always knew. Like she'd been waiting for the truth to come out in some form. He laughed, bitter and breathless. I broke her heart. I broke a decade of comfort and habit and whatever else we thought we had. And I couldn't sleep after that. Couldn't breathe. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because despite all of it, I still want you. I exhaled slowly, the weight of his confession sinking in. I never asked you to blow up your life, Ethan. I know. But I did. For the first time, I didn't take the safe road. I chose truth over survival. He took a cautious step closer. I don't know what this is. I don't know what we'll be. But I know I feel more alive with you than I have in 10 years. And that has to mean something. I looked at him. This man who'd been so tightly wound in rules and expectations, now standing stripped of them all. I can't be your rebound, I said. You're not. I don't do secrets. There aren't any left. I hesitated. I wanted to believe him. Every part of me ached to. But infidelity always leaves a wound. Open, messy, complicated. What happens now? I asked. He stepped even closer. Now, you leave this hospital, and I don't let you disappear. You sure you're ready for the world to see us? He reached for my hand, bold and sure. Let them watch. For the first time, I saw it in his eyes, not just desire, but commitment. Not the kind that comes from guilt or obligation, but the kind born from breaking and rebuilding. I can't promise forever, he said. But I can promise I'm done lying. To everyone. Especially myself. I looked down at our joined hands, then back up at him. Something inside me, the guarded, skeptical part, finally loosened. Then take me out of here, I said. And let's find out what this could be. He smiled, relieved, genuine, real. Ethan opened the door, and together, we walked out. Not just from the hospital, but from who we were before this began.